Good evening, everybody. My speech is on GMOs, which are genetically modified organisms, and which specific genetically modified organisms are foods. My major claim is how they are a hazard to our health, which is the secondary claim, and then the first secondary claim, and the second secondary claim is how they are a hazard to the environment. The hazard to health. GMOs are obviously mutated, they're genetically modified. They can also cause malicious tumors within our bodies and also test animals such as rats. And farms have lost cattle due to decrease in health and their immune systems. In a video documentary entitled Seeds of Death, we see that in human beings there have been cases where genetically modified foods have caused basically holes in our intestinal systems, which cause leakage and cause destruction, with our stomach acids, cause destruction to the rest of our internal organs. And in order to solve that, just stop eating genetically modified foods. Also, the malicious tumors have been found in lab rats from a French study by, it was an article by Anthony Gucciardi and Monte Morin. And it shows that genetically modified organisms, there was two test groups. It was one group of rats which were given genetically modified foods, and the other one which was given all natural, zero genetically modified foods. And the one with the GMOs had the most tumors, and they were substantially dead. Also here in the east coast of the United States, there have been farmers also taken from the documentary Seeds of Death, where cattle from several different farms have had miscarriages. Already adult cows have perished due to lack of immune systems because they were lowered and decreased in health. And these farmers have switched from GMOs, which were originally from Monsanto, which were Monsanto's Roundup Ready canola seeds, to all natural canola seeds. And according to them, the health of their cattle increased. There were no longer any more miscarriages, and they produced even more healthier milk, for example, the cows that didn't produce any. And then GMOs themselves could be insecticides, since Roundup Ready canola oil also has insecticides within it, so it's genetically modified. So if an insect were to bite into it, it would literally just pop. Its stomach would just explode. And this goes back to the cause mutations in human beings, how GMOs can cause little holes, essentially the popping in the insect, but since we're on a grander scale, the bigger scale compared to them, it doesn't affect us almost instantaneously. It just takes longer for us to see those side effects. And then how GMOs are a hazard to the environment. In the documentary by Bertram Verhaag, it was Monsanto. It was Piercy versus Monsanto. It was a trial case. In 1998, he had a farm of all natural canola seeds, and 3 farmers around his area agreed with Monsanto to plant its Roundup Ready canola seeds. And then during one of the harvests in 1998, it was a heavy storm, and they cross-contaminated, it just blew the seeds from all the 3 different farms into his, since it was along the route, and caused seeds to go into his own property of all natural canola seeds, and therefore cross-contaminated, so his seeds were no longer pure. In this case, Monsanto found out of the situation and sued him for stealing his product, for Monsanto's product, and the court ruled that for the year of 1998, all his profits had to go to Monsanto, that land, the crops that were to be grown in that land were property of Monsanto from then on. And Piercy, which is the guy who was sued by Monsanto, basically lost everything that year. And from then on forward, he has been trying to purify his farmland again, but there are light electricity posts that run along the edge of his property and one of the property lines of the other farmers that agreed to it, and there is patches of Roundup Ready canola oil still growing in that area. So up until now, he still has to give part of his profits and part of his land to Monsanto Corporation. And then this goes back to the resistance against insecticides, where most of all the insecticides that have been sprayed in that area to relieve the area of genetically modified canola seeds does not work. Those plants are still thriving. There are, I'm quoting him now, Frankenstein crops. how they, doesn't matter what kind of poison or insecticide they use, they just keep growing back. And a lot of this information was also brought from the non-GMO project. And there's also a case in Hawaii where GMOs have helped save the papaya, the Hawaiian papaya, from extinction by genetically modifying them to make them resistant against a virus. And if you think about it, if a fruit is resistant against a virus, and the virus is also, as you could experience in humans, like the flu virus, it's very hard against them, especially if you don't get vaccinations. How bad would it be if we had that same genetic modification? Obviously, we wouldn't get sick, but we would be altered genetically, and it won't be natural, as you can see. Thank you.
All right, Jonathan, the proposition and the secondary claims, when you introduce them, when you watch it back on the YouTube channel later, notice how you phrase the claims. You say, I'm going to talk to you about how this is a hazard. I'm going to show you how it affects health. I'm going to show you how it affects the environment. Those are informatively phrased thesis statements as opposed to declarative sentences which say GMOs harm the environment, GMOs harm human health. I didn't see a distinguishing characteristic between your main proposition and the first supporting point. It basically is the same point. So that doesn't make any sense. It can't, you know, you've got two separate claims. You need a general topic to cover both of them. And there are propositional terms that I think would be able to accomplish that. You start off with the structure, but I didn't really hear those signposts in the body of the speech as you went along. I think that's a little bit problematic. The biggest issue that I have, though, is you're very dependent on information from the film that you cite, but I don't notice that you are directly quoting the text of the film or people who are cited in the film. Or authorities. It sounds to me like you are paraphrasing something that you saw in the film, and that means that there's going to be ambiguity and uncertainty about interpretations that are going on there, and that's a potential problem. The one example that you cited, the lawsuit, for instance, since there is a lawsuit, there's a record of that, there are court records, you should be quoting directly from the court case or from official reporting on the court case. And all I'm getting, like I said, is the description of the story of what happened, but I don't know if that's the story of what happened according to the film that you are quoting, or if this was reported on in a book, or if this is just this person's interpretation of what happened. If there's a court ruling, then clearly there is there's some legal precedent here, and it appears that Monsanto was in the right, that the courts ruled that way. If your claim is that it's not right that Monsanto won that case, that should be one of the supporting points in your argument, and tell us why there's something wrong with that, or how that doesn't meet the legal requirements or violates the rules in some way, shape, or form. And we don't get enough details on this situation. It's always told from the one perspective, and that's one of the problems of using a film as the basis of information. I'm not saying that you couldn't do that, but you're very dependent on information, I think, in this particular situation. I think you needed a little bit stronger summary at the end of the presentation also. There are a lot of stories. The two best pieces of information that you had the one research that was done by the French scientist that studied the rats. But again, even that, we don't get statistical data on it. It comes down to, the rats who were exposed to this, they had a lot more of the tumors, or they had faster tumors or something like that. And I'm going, that doesn't sound like anything that a scientist would write. It sounds like, once again, you're paraphrasing the research as opposed to directly quoting the research, and you need to be directly quoting the material so that we know that we're getting something that is correct, and it'll also be clearer as opposed to being filtered through your interpretation. All right, thank you.